All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got Jonathan Hay with the long resume. Jonathan is a has been a music producer in the industry, and he's also done a lot of publishing work. So he's a publicist, and he's worked with quite a few people. Jonathan, give us some of the names of the people that you worked with in the past.
Projects that I've worked on have included Rihanna, Johnny Depp, Nappy Roots, Eric B. and Rakim, the Notorious Big Estate, Boosie Badass. I've also worked with Drake and Kanye West is good music, mostly with Sahada Prince, Eminem's artist King Crooked from Slaughterhouse, DJ Khaled, Sway Calloway, Wu Tang Clan, Twista. The list goes on.
So I saw an interview with you and Jaguar Wright on Real Life, and she spoke about you doing some work with. Well, you spoke about doing some work on Biggie's estate. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, first of all, shout out to Jaguar Wright. She's really making an impact right now. She's been trending for the last 2 days, which is exciting. And people are starting to believe her because I know she dealt with a lot of blowback. So shout out for her for really like kind of putting me in this, YouTube game, speaking out, being an advocate for victims and, for trying to do the right thing and good for people. So shout out to Jaguar Wright.
You know, it's crazy because when Jaguar Wright was coming out and speaking about these things, everybody called her crazy. You know, but it's why, let me tell you, I never thought that. And in fact, I think that she's really, really like on a different level with her intelligence. You know what I'm saying? But she know what she talking about, and she know why she's saying what she's saying. That was a pretty good interview, and I want to go over some of the things that you all talked about in that interview.
Mhm.
Uh, and in particular the Biggie estate, and you know, how did you become to work on it, and how all that led up to you dealing with Diddy, maybe directly or indirectly.
The Diddler. So as far as the Biggie estate goes, we had done the Eric B. and Rakim album. We had done a reimagination with Eric B. and Rakim, and we hit number one on the Billboard Jazz charts, and we were there for 11 weeks. So while we were out in Brooklyn doing all the different jazz like clubs, promotions that required having a number one album, we started to think about what would be the next project to do, and we decided to do the Notorious Big. So we went from Brooklyn back to Louisville, where we recorded Eric B. and Rakim, and we recorded Follow the Leader. I mean, we started working on the Biggie stuff, right?
Hmm.
And we finished the Biggie stuff in 11 days. And after we were finished with the project, I sent it to a friend of mine, a journalist who had covered the Eric B. and Rakim. And I wasn't sending it to him, to like cover the project. I just wanted his opinion to listen to it because it was like the first house music I had done, right? And he told me that he loved it. Well, 2 days later, a few days later, he called me and said that he sent it to Biggie's son, CJ Wallace, which is the fourth of the estate, and the estate administrator by the name of Willie Mack. And they loved it and they wanted to speak to immediately. So that night, I spoke to Biggie's son while I was in Louisville. He was in Los Angeles, and he told me that he loved what I did with his father's music and that they were interested in doing a deal with me and they wanted to meet me in person. So I flew out there myself and, funded like everything, like from the Airbnb out there and um, uh, all this stuff that goes, along with, traveling, to the West Coast. Anyways, I met them. We hit it off. We did an amazing photo shoot where CJ rolled out a clothing rack of Biggie's clothes that his dad had worn when he was alive. So I got to like wear some of Biggie's clothes, which was unbelievable because just the week before I was working on Biggie's music to to reimagine it as house music, and now here I'm wearing his clothes. So that was like surreal. And we went out a couple times, and we vibed really really well.
So was this like your first big project working with Biggie before the other ones that you did? Was that when you was like first getting into the game?
No, this was in 2020.
Okay. Okay.
This is after. So we did Eric B and Rakim in 2019, and then we did Biggie in 2020, right after that,
Got you. Got you.
based on the success. And Biggie, when he was alive, was a huge fan of Rakim. That was his like favorite MC. So I was co-signed by Rakim and like Billboard magazine and stuff like that. So they did the deal with me for me to reimagine all his dad's work. It's the first time the Notorious Big Estate has worked with a producer because they get hit up a lot for people to do stuff. They actually did a whole project with me. They were supposed to, and we did this contract. Well, then, wow, I went out and saw him a couple more times, hung out with them, all good vibes. Knew that Willie Mack was gay. Knew that CJ Mack was like bisexual because they acted like they weren't a couple, but clearly you could tell that they were a couple. Willie Mack and CJ Wallace is like I was like, why are they acting like that towards me? Didn't matter. So Biggie's son, I guess because it's Biggie's son, and nobody wanted like Biggie's son to be bisexual.
Wait, that's interesting. So Biggie's son is a clearly a bisexual.
Yes,
It makes me wonder how he got that way, because when I look at certain videos and things that we've exposed, Biggie and Puff Daddy was in with these transgender women. Are you familiar with that?
correct.
I got more Mac than Craig and in the bed. Believe me, sweetie, I got enough to feed the needy. No need.
Yeah, that's just crazy,
And
right?
his lyrics, some of his lyrics that he says.
Yeah, yeah. He said, man, uh, drop your kid. Don't you know we kidnap kids, F them in there and throw them over the. Oh man, it's bad. I don't know how far you want to get into it, but and you can if you will, but I think that now, just now as I sit here speaking with you, I think that Biggie done touched his kids. Or somebody did that, because look, when you sick like that and then your kids end up like that, it just makes you really wonder, how did you get like that? Where you just want to, and then you talking about doing stuff to people's kids and throwing them over the bridge, doing sexual things, and yeah, anyway.
Listen, that's interesting. But as far as like CJ's concerned, his son, and they look so much alike, it's weird. He was 6 months when his father passed. So I don't know, but I mean maybe it was with the stepdad who raised him. His name was Todd Rousseau, Faith Evans' husband.
Right.
But clearly it runs in his blood because Biggie was pretty open with it, right? Like he wasn't hiding it by any means.
I guess it was one of those peekaboo things. Yeah, I put it in your face, but I'm not really saying it. I'm giving you the impression it's not this way, but if you really pay attention, it's clear.
So CJ Wallace, Willie Mack, they were a couple. Like like people could be around you and your wife without knowing that you guys are married, and people would know that you guys are a couple
Right, right, right. Period.
without you having to say it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You better know it.
Yeah, so it was the same thing around CJ and Willie. They were like jealous of each other. They'd have their little spats and everything else, and blah 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 blah. And it was, we just dealt with it. Well, then the pandemic happened, and we were shut down. And during lockdown, we were still working on the project. And Willie started to like work with me like late on like Zoom calls and like video conference, and he would like go over the music when I was like producing the stuff, and he would give a lot of suggestions. But then he would start like suggesting like weird shit. And at first I blew it off. Maybe he's just being nice. My girlfriend at the time was like, he's flirting with you. She questioned me, do you guys have something going on? It's like, no, come on, like like we're together, like come on, I'm just being nice, it's a business deal, right, bro? Like I'm
Right.
just kind of ignoring it, and we're thousands of miles away. It didn't even bother me, but he kept like picking it up and saying a couple other things, and then he wanted me to get on camera with them and watch porn and jerk off on camera.
Oh, sick.
And that's when I was like, okay, this has gone this has gone too far. And I still didn't say anything. Right? I didn't say anything because it put me in a weird spot, because CJ is his woman, And how? What am I going to do? Go tell CJ like his man is hitting on him?
Right.
That's going to jam me up. I'm going to lose my investment in my deal. But you understand what I mean? So it's like I just kind of brushed it off under the rug.
Wow, man. Man. So maybe that explains why, and correct me if I'm wrong, correct me if I got this wrong. But maybe that explains why Biggie's son kids, CJ, and maybe the rest of them, I don't know, and Puff kids got a good relationship despite the fact that their mother hate this dude because obviously she feel like he has something to do with her son's murder, whether it was by intentional or unintentional or what. But and maybe you can elaborate more on that, the dynamic of the relationship between Puff Daddy, Biggie's mom, the kids, and how all that intertwine.
Well, you're exactly right. And Puffy's son and CJ Wallace, Biggie's son, are really really good friends. Like CJ Wallace is like so close to Christian. Like CJ Wallace was at the freak offs for sure. Willie Mack was at the freak offs for sure because they were talking about, Diddy's parties and how wild they would get, but, loving it. Like, the feds should go talk to Biggie's son about the stuff that he's seen at Diddy's freak offs with, King Combs, Christian Combs, Puffy's son, because they were openly talking about it. Like his parties and how debauchery would get, and but it was a blast and it was fun, and da 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 da. And when the pandemic's over, they'll have me out, to want to Diddy's parties and stuff like that. But listen, so we brought out one of the songs called Big Papa House Mix that I did with the Notorious Big Estate.
Big Papa House Mix was produced by Wallace alongside Jonathan Hay, Sarah Rush, and Willie Mack.
And it went viral. We went on like Rolling Stone and Spin Magazine and Variety and all the big major publications, Hot 97. And uh, we did some interviews together. There's one interview that you can see us on video, CJ Wallace and I talking about the song. Sarah suggested, she was like, "You think we could get Biggie's son?" I was like, "No, no way." And then, sure enough, do you think we could get Biggie's son on one of the records or one of the songs? And sure enough, here he is. And they've taken what Sarah and I did. It started in Louisville, and Willie and CJ have just turned it into like a full blown production, and it sounds better than anything that we could ever have thought it to be in the beginning.
So we were kind of thinking of, different ideas. Yeah, putting an album out or even a single out around his birthday with Jonathan and Sarah. Once they came to us with the idea, and we were already thinking, what does Frank White sound like? Like, what does this brand sound like? And it's obviously Biggie inspired, but it's really everything that I've listened to since I was 5-6 years old, all the way up to 23 now. So,
but this is where it got weird, is because as the song got like bigger and we started to get more serious, then we would have like bigger group calls. And since it was the pandemic, they brought Puffy on one because Puffy at the time was still involved with, Biggie, because he was signed to Bad Boy. He was still involved with his music and his estate and his publishing and whatnot. So him and Christian and CJ Wallace and Willie Mack and myself, and they had and CJ and Willie, they had this assistant with them. They're talking about the song, and Puffy was dissing our record, bro. He was like, "This isn't this isn't good house music." And he asked me, he was like, "Do you do ketamine?" And I was like, "I don't," but I was familiar with it because my girlfriend at the time that I told you about, she was an ex stripper, and she was like all into ketamine and all that kind of stuff like that. So I known about it from her, and I hadn't done it up to that point. But he was like, "Do you do ketamine?" And I said, I don't." And he was like, "Well, you can tell. That's why the music sounds the way it does. That's why it's flat. They wouldn't play this at Burning Man. That's a place that Puffy would go to, like raves." He said they wouldn't play this at Miami Ultra Week. He was like, "You got to do that ketamine, man. Ketamine so you feel the vibes." He said all the ravers are listening to ketamine. You got to give them what they're all doing. And of course, I was just like, "Yes, sir. No, I totally understand. That type thing because it's It's Puffy, and this is Puffy right before he's charged, Diddy, and then he starts sniffing on, like right now, like I'm looking at you.
Right.
He just starts sniffing, right? And he had his like phone with him. He's like holding it, he's like sniffing, and we're like, "Are you serious?" And it was crazy because his son was there, and his son was a lot younger. So I was just shocked that it was happening. I don't know if it was ketamine. I don't know if it was cocaine. It seemed to be ketamine because he was talking about it at the time, but it could have been coke.
That sounds really, really odd and more like on a spiritual note in a bad way, by the way. That you want to smoke, I mean, sniff ketamine in order to do beats. Now I've heard of people saying, I do my best beats when I'm high, or and this and that. But for him to confirm that, and then to know that he's put out some of the hottest music ever. Let's just be real. Rather what, no matter what, the dude done put out some bomb music, and people know that. That's one of the dangers of listening to this stuff and being so indulged in it, because we know what it derived from, and it came from the spirits, from the evil spirits that's holding everybody and putting strongholds on the industry. And this is, it's just, it's not a good thing. You know what I'm saying? So, but I know that Biggie and Puffy, since we both know that they both are homosexuals and that's been confirmed, do you think that, or did you have any signs or see anything or hear anything about Puffy and Biggie having sexual relations?
No, but I think Puffy and Diddy's son, CJ, had
So,
sexual relations.
wait. Puffy was having sexual relations with Biggie's son?
It it definitely seemed that way, the way that they would talk. Look, Willie Mack told me that he was with Puffy, that and him and CJ would go to freak offs, but they were so jealous, right? And they weren't calling them freak offs then. They were so jealous of each other that if one is going to be in the mix, then the other will. But I know Willie Mack has been with Diddy, and I assume that CJ Wallace Jr. has also been with Diddy.
Wow. Wow.
They went to the parties. They were both in LA. CJ lives in LA. You got to think too. It's like Diddy's biggest artist of all time is Biggie. That's his flagship artist. That's his biggest selling artist.
So oh man, Puffy was a low down piece of shit, bro. So I know you spoke before about DJ Khaled. Was they all involved with this Puffy stuff and all that too? DJ and some other people.
No, this was during the show One Shot.
Okay.
Obviously, DJ Khaled has been with Puffy at his Diddy parties. We don't know what they've done, but DJ Khaled was doing a show called One Shot that I was involved in, and Sway Calloway and RZA, and they had their own version of like a Diddy freak off.
Yeah. Did CJ, or have you ever met Puffy kids?
Just on the Zoom call.
Okay, but so have CJ or anybody ever spoken to you, or talked about the Diddy parties and who may have been there or who was there?
They openly talked about the Diddy parties
Oh man.
because but they weren't considered bad then. They were considered the place to be.
Right. So they would have probably talked more freely about it. So let me ask, give me some names of some people that was there that would probably shock us.
I don't know that, but I just know that especially during the pandemic, during lockdown, they were still having the parties because they were talking about it. So it's like, oh, we're tired from being out with Diddy all night, that type of thing. So like Biggie's son, that's what I'm saying. Like I want to reiterate that, the Fed should definitely go talk to C.J. Wallace, Biggie's son, and Willie Mack about what they've witnessed and what they've been put through.
Okay, so you say that with confidence, so you know something. What will they find? What will they find out?
I don't know. We would know because the way that they were talking about it at the time was they were always going over there. It's one of Puffy's closest people, and like I said, I believe that Diddy and Willie Mack and CJ, probably did some, crazy sexual stuff. I
And
know
how old was he?
CJ would have been 20 at the time.
Mhm. Okay.
But we don't. But he's been around Diddy. He calls him uncle. He's been around him his whole life. That's his dad is his biggest artist. So like to bring up your conversation earlier, Valletta Wallace, Biggie's mom, doesn't like Diddy at all because her son was murdered because of Diddy's label, allegedly, and because of his actions and because of how he got down. Diddy was in the car ahead of Biggie when he was assassinated.
Yeah. Gene Deal did a big showing that on, I think, PBD podcast. I listened to it. I was on the road and listened to the whole interview, and it was really really interesting. It actually changed my mindset about what I thought about Gene. I got a chance to kind of get to know him better and why he
Right.
doing what he's doing, and I can understand where he's coming from. You know what I'm saying? I know a lot of people would disagree, especially the guys. Stitches get snitches get stitches, and all that, and whatever. But I can understand where he coming from. I'm not saying I would have did the same thing. I'm just saying I understand where he coming from, um, and I see it from a different light. But you spoke about. I just want to kind of dig into that a little bit. Maybe I asked the question a little bit wrong. When when CJ, okay, you said that the Fed should go talk to CJ about
Correct.
things that was going on.
Mhm.
So what would you expect him to say based on conversations that you have had with him?
Well, being that CJ Wallace is gay, and being that Willie Mack is gay, and they were in a very controlling, toxic, jealous relationship, right? And they were both at the parties, and Willie had told me that he had been with Diddy, right? It just seems that it does, and they would go to the parties together. It just seems that they would have all have participated in something like that. Like, just you can look up, CJ Wallace and Willie Mack, and you can see them and their history, what they've done over the years. Willie Mack is openly gay, CJ isn't.
So basically, what you say is just logical that he's seen some things that you
Correct.
know. Okay, I got you. Okay, I thought maybe he said some things, specifically about you know what was going on to you that you thought that they should know. Um, so what was your relationship? What is your relationship now with CJ? How do y'all get along? Do y'all talk? Is everything good?
No, so after that call with Puffy, it was like a changing point when Puffy was like, you know, like telling us that we needed to do ketamine, that he really didn't like the song. He scheduled like an interview for Revolt because Biggie was also going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame at the time. He scheduled an interview for us from Revolt to do kind of like what we're doing now, and that didn't happen. But in the meantime, Willie like picked up his like flirting and stuff like that when we were alone. So that's why I was like, okay. And maybe this goes back. Maybe saying this out loud makes me realize that maybe Willie Mack and Puff Daddy, did have a relationship because CJ didn't know, I don't think, that the way that Willie was acting towards me. So, and like I told you, I was like caught in a position where I didn't know if I should go and tell, CJ about Willie, his boyfriend, how he was acting because it could blow up the deal. And that's exactly what did happen, is because I got really, really uncomfortable. And he sent me this MP3 with him singing, I love you, I love you, I love you, over and over. And that was like very like troubling, and he kept getting like jealous over everything because everyone wanted to speak to just CJ Wallace. So like when CJ Wallace interviewed with like Variety that's out there, Willie threw a fit like, why isn't anybody including him? And it's because you're not Biggie's son. But he would be like that jealous boyfriend, like, I want to get my shine too. I need to be there too. Da 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 da. He was very, very controlling, right? And so that's when I had enough, and I finally reached out to CJ, And to one of the managers of the estate, the other person, I was like, listen, guys, I'm dealing with a lot of weirdness with Willie Mack. He's tried to, got me to masturbate on FaceTime and watch porn. He sent me this audio where he's singing I love you over and over. I sent it over to him. And as soon as I did that, that's when the relationship was over.
It was all because that's his man. That's his boo. So he
Exactly.
couldn't have that. Oh,
Exactly. And listen, like as a man, like myself,
yeah.
like I was uncomfortable for me to say that.
Yeah, like how do you
So for me to come out and say that, I wasn't expecting to just be like having them like shut down the deal. I wanted them to listen to the audio and be like, all right, well, I know he's singing, I love you. It's just like his sense of humor. And, we talked to him about the jerking off. Like, he didn't mean it that way. He knows you're very funny and you have a sense of humor. So, like, say something. Don't just act crazy. And then they send me a cease and desist. Instead of like talking to me about, which was clearly sexual harassment, they sent me a cease and desist and the project was over. And I never talked to him again.
Wow, okay, so we got a copy of that audio. Check it out right here.
Jonathan Hay! Jonathan Hay! Jonathan Hay! I want to thank you, Jesus, for introducing us to Jonathan Hay. It's gonna be alright. It's gonna be. It's gonna be. It's gonna be alright. It's gonna be alright. Yeah. Jonathan Hay.
And so, look, that audio that you heard, that's Willie Mack, CJ Wallace's boyfriend, and part of the Notorious Big estate.
Wow, man. This is crazy, man. So and and the crazy thing is all this stuff at the end of the day is all circled around Diddy. I mean, the original song was done by Diddy. Diddy was the producer and the record label behind it. And you got in on it now. They want you to flip out and be like them. Did you ever hear of, or do you know any information about the Diddy and the R. Kelly connection?
No, I sure don't.
Okay, because I think that they were doing some things together, had a fallout. What I was wondering if you knew some inside scoop on that, because the R. Kelly thing is crazy too. His daughter is coming out with a documentary talking about some things, and I didn't know that she hated him like that, or it almost sounded like she was saying that he molested her. I would like to talk to her. I really would. But yeah, man, it's a lot going on, man, and we need to connect again and talk about some more things. I know you got some more stuff and some more information to share with us. You're kind of holding out a little bit, but that's all right. You're supposed to let it spread a little bit. Ain't nothing wrong with that. But yeah, man, maybe we can get together again and do some more stuff and
Right.
expose some of these people, man. You know.
Right. Well, just let me tell you. So, like, after I sent the audio and after I talked to the estate and after they showed me out, I contacted Faith Evans. Faith Evans stonewalled me. Valletta stonewalled me. And it's like clearly you can see that this guy has been acting inappropriate. And really, I'm just looking out, for everybody. This guy's like, this is CJ's boyfriend. He's trying to jerk off with me, talking about how he's been, with Diddy sexually, and now he's like ruined my whole investment in our relationship. And the way that they shut me down, this is what I want to tell you. It's like it come from experience. That's all part of Diddy because you've heard all these women try to come forward and Diddy shut them down. And that's why it's just getting legs now. And there was for years, bro, I went through depression because of this. Because I was living in Brooklyn, right? And for years I was like depressed, like almost like I wish I would have just went along with the sexual advances.
Man, no, you don't, man. Ugh.
No, I don't. Now I don't. But I'm just saying. Then it's
Yeah,
like I
yeah.
lost this. This was a multi-million-dollar deal that I lost for
Wow.
for for blowing the whistle.
But this the thing. That's proof that they're not gonna let you get too far is if you're not participating with the. This is why the whole industry is messed up because you can't get in like that unless you nasty. That's man, it's sickening.
Well, listen, with um, myself, Jaguar Wright, Truth is, all these people, this is the new regime, man. We're coming through and, they're getting pushed out already, but we're gonna change things in the industry.
Yeah, man, and maybe it'd be good because I know you are the you're a good connection between everybody because you're a publicist and worked with so many people. Maybe you can start connecting, getting us all connected so we can share information, thoughts, ideas, and work as a unit to get this out here, man. Because people really need to know what's going on. Let me ask you this though. So I know that, and this is one of the things that people that came to my mind that you worked with. How well do you know Boosie?
Boosie Badass. So I worked with, he follows me on Twitter, and I was working with him and his brother and the artist Young Blue. And like when Young Blue was coming up. So I was working with Boosie Badass. When the home invasion happened, I was working with Boosie Badass and Drake. Those are the only people I was working with, right? And so when they arrested one of the people who, duct taped us and tied us up, I went to his Facebook, right? Just to like, see his photos because I was duct taped and he was masked up. I couldn't see him. And the only music artist that he liked was Bootsy Badass. And that was really, really weird. So I was working with Young Blue for a while. He was signed to Bootsy. And I dealt with Bootsy. Like I said, Bootsy was cool, but after the home invasion happened, I never worked with Bootsy again.
So what you think Boosie has something to do with it?
No, not at all.
Okay. So what will make you not want to work with him anymore?
Just because, like, when I went through that trauma of being tied up, and
Uh-huh.
that the guy who did that was a fan of Boosie, I don't want that energy or vibration.
Oh, so you know who did it.
Yeah,
Okay, so let's get to the rumors then. Let's bring Drake into this. Did Drake have anything to do with the the home invasion?
Jaguar Wright said so. She told me that in our interview, and it's
Okay.
something I've never thought of. But then the somebody reached out to me, like a fan of Jaguar, and was like, in the song Sandra's Rose from his album Scorpion, he Drake talks about Louisville hush money, and he talks about his sending gunners, and he mentions strip clubs and casinos, and he mentions like a robbery, right?
Yeah.
And that's all exactly what happened to me because at the time Drake and I had did a hush money deal for working with his baby mama Sophie, which is that's all that's out online. And when we were in the home invasion in Louisville with the Louisville hush money, when we were duct taped, when they left us, I gave them the debit card. There was two of them, and I gave him my PIN number, which the police thought was weird at the time. They're like, "Why would you give him the PIN number?" Because you didn't know. Like my daughter's there with me. I'm duct taped, right? I didn't know if they were going to go give one to one of the guys to go check, and if the PIN number didn't work, they would kill us both. So we were at their mercy. So I gave my PIN number. With that PIN number, bro, they went to a strip club, and then they went across down in downtown Louisville, and then went across the bridge to the casino. Jaguar Wright and the Truth Is podcast believe that Drake had something to do with it. Jaguar Wright said she found it on the black web.
So what you know, but that's what Drake do. He do stuff and then he throw these little sneak disses. You know what I'm
That's what they
saying?
say.
Yeah, because I guess he's invincible in his mind until he get puff daddied, and that's about what he got coming up. Because I know he's been involved in some nasty. So people need to start coming out on that clown too, because he done did a whole lot of mess too. I want to ask you this. I know that you and Boosie are apparently got a decent relationship or whatever. He follow you and stuff. So, but j- man, I just got to ask you. I can't resist, man. Are you surprised at all that Boosie would come out publicly and support P Diddy for all these for his arrest and all that?
No, because Boosie just seems to just say stuff for attention at times, you know. But yet yes and no on both sides, because it's hard to believe that anybody would support Diddy with this many victims.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. And I'm gonna tell you what I think. I'm gonna just tell you what I think. Boosie got some lyrics. Speaking of, he just came from New York and something, about kicking it with Diddy. So I believe that Diddy and Boosie then did some things together, because I know that Boosie has thrown some wild parties too. So he'd be another one on the list that might come up if you get out of hand and don't keep yourself in check with the do dirties. But look, man, all these different people doing this stuff is, I'm just glad it's been exposed, and people are really starting to come out and expose the industry for what it is, because it's been years and years and years on top of years of people trying to convince people that it's a lot of evil things and crazy stuff with rituals and all this different mess going on in the industry, and people just didn't want to believe it because it sounds so good. And I used to be one of them people. You couldn't tell me this stuff. If you said something about rap and hip hop and all these artists, I'd have said you was a fake and you was a phony, and you need to be hitting your mouth and all that. You know what I'm saying? Just ignorance. But when you become so attracted to something that it suck all your energy, all your positive energy out of you, you got to realize it's time to move to something different. But that's it. So anything else, man, that you can share with us that's that might interest us, man? What you got? You know some more stuff.
Well, just I'm going to reiterate it again, man. About the feds to look into CJ, Willie, probably some complicity there, because CJ was so close to his uncle Diddy, and he was so close to Diddy's son, and they were constantly going to the parties, even in the pandemic, because they were telling me, like, you got to come to these parties, and CJ and Willie, they also love ketamine. They're in the house music scene. They love MDA, Molly, all that stuff, because we were talking about it, So the police should look into him for at least information or complicity, which I think that CJ Wallace and Willie Mack are both complicit with Diddy, and maybe there's some of the people that they're talking about in the indictment.
So so if you were invited to some of these parties, and I know you was into the music and trying to get on to another level and make big deals, why did you never go to the parties? Why have you never been?
Because it was the pandemic. If it wasn't the pandemic, I would have went for sure, not knowing that baby
Well,
oil was about to come out and it was about to get weird.
oh my god, man. The baby oil, man. That's crazy, man. That is crazy. So let me ask you this before we get out. What is your plans moving forward, and as far as it relates to being in the industry or whatever? What's your overall plans for your career?
I'm just taking it day by day. Really appreciate Jaguar Wright for kind of starting me on this path that I'm doing right now, which led me to
Right.
speaking with you. And you've got such a strong audience, which will lead me to, other people, and it'll just keep going. So I'm just taking it, one day at a time. And I know God is doing some amazing work right now. I'm not for sure what it is, but I'm just like really following that path.
And the good thing is, when you trust him, you ain't got to be sure. Just roll with him. So listen, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you all tuning in to Too Strong. And do yourself a favor. Wake up before you go to sleep. Peace. We out of here.